For a number of years I didn't go to church, and I realized that when my son said to me, "I don't believe in God," that I had a problem.
It was the first church I'd walked into where I could sit through the whole service and feel like I was being nurtured.
The sign said a theologically progressive church.
I saw a giant poster for this event that was attracting pagans, Sikhs, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, and everybody, and I just looked at that and I said, wow.
The minister came to the table and said, "Everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter if you belong to the church, it doesn't matter what you believe. You're welcome to the table of communion and fellowship."
The current sanctuary is beautiful. It is the oldest public building in Evanston.
It's got a serious iconic status in the city of Evanston.
I think of the sanctuary. I think of the beautiful wood and the sacredness of this particular space.
It does reflect, I think, Evanston. You have a highly diverse population. It's diverse economically, it's diverse socially, racially, but you also have people with all kinds of amazing talents and skills. And then with the university, you have professors, PhDs, you have professionals, you have people who are just incredibly worldly and searching. Of all the churches that I've experienced in Evanston, it's the one that really captures the reasons why we moved here.
Lake Street Church has this dance going on between this traditional Baptist religion and this cutting-edge progressivism, this radical inclusion.
There are people who are Jewish, and there are people who are Buddhist and Hindu.
I came from a Presbyterian background. I went to a Methodist seminary, and then I got ordained in the United Church of Christ.
I received a letter upon graduating, actually, from seminary that I would not be ordained by the Southern Baptist Church because I was a woman.
Although I'd grown up in a church, I'd never really felt that comfortable there and never, frankly, bought it.
I grew up learning about the Baptist tradition, Roger Williams, the idea of soul liberty, and those Baptist foundational ideas were terribly important to me.
I identify myself spiritually as a lifelong Baptist, in style still Baptist, but definitely interfaith identified.
I'm a nice Lutheran boy.
I've just started calling myself a meditator.
I'm just a multifarious combination of a lot of influences at this point.
I try to use any tools that are available for spiritual growth and spiritual comfort.
I have come out as a Buddhist in this Christian church.
The worship service reflects our covenant, and every time I read that, I think, yes, this is where I want to be.
One of the gifts of the worship service at Lake Street Church is that it is modeled in a non-creedal way, but there's a mix of tradition in the music, in the prayers, and the prayers, it's so unique how the prayer of the congregation is offered here.
We participate by writing a prayer on a card, which is handed to the person who is praying in front of the congregation. Our very words get spoken in that prayer, and we get a chance to hear those particular needs of the people sitting around us.
You get this combination of a traditional building and some traditional music that it's like comfort food, and yet you don't have to park your brain at the door.
Historically, Lake Street Church has been known as having a prophetic pulpit. It has always offered its pulpit to new ideas and forward-thinking theologians.
I was able to sit and listen to sermons that resonated in my heart and mind, and I never had that experience before, and it was profound.
I come to this church and I see that we're having services that are co-led by Buddhist monks.
The honoring of all the world religions that we take throughout the year is what has been most important to us.
There's something going on at Lake Street that undercuts a number of different spiritual traditions. It's a level of respect that's so deep that someone suggested it's the form that love takes when people are not necessarily intimately acquainted.
We are inviting all people of all faiths and those who are searching for a faith to come together and search with us.
Over the years, the music at Lake Street Church has been a mainstay of our worship service. Even though the format is traditional, the music that we use spans a wide variety of styles, cultures, from spirituals to Brahms to contemporary jazz bands, and we have just grown over the years.
I love Lake Street Church's worship service because we have a moment as children where we get to come forward. We talk about things and we ask questions and we do a little prayer, then we get to go to Sunday school, and that's really fun for me.
The communion table at Lake Street Church is open and welcoming and inclusive of all who would like to be on this spiritual journey, regardless of your background, your beliefs.
It really comes out of the supper that Jesus had with the people that were around him, and sometimes I really have that sense when I'm in communion Lake Street Church.
It's not a matter of what you believe or how you practice or how you preach or how you pray. All that is required is that you seek to be spiritual with others.
Soul liberty is a basic tenet for the Baptist tradition, and Lake Street Church has taken that probably to a new level today beyond most Baptist congregations.
I think many of us have very deep and strong beliefs, but they're ours, and we don't insist that they become somebody else's.
American Baptist Lake Street Church asks each of its members to develop and work on a spiritual relationship with the divine, not dictated by any outside force or the particular minister at the time.
You know, it's simply this ethic of, I can be who I am. I don't need to coerce you in order for us to belong together.
That really sang to me, given the restrictive nature of my background.
And a piece of being open is to welcome all people, and particularly gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgendered folk.
I fell in love with Lake Street Church long before I was a member, because the congregation was a significant ally of the welcoming and affirming churches in our region and nation at a time when our denomination was in great conflict about that in the mid-90s. As a member who's here with my lifelong partner, Carla, I experienced the joy of not being a one-dimensional person.
I, for one, am a child of two moms, and having gay parents at Lake Street Church is less unusual than it is pretty much anywhere else I've ever been.
Lake Street Church has really been in the forefront of so many things in Evanston. It's been a very dynamic presence and a very courageous one. There were many times when Lake Street Church took unpopular positions.
Another example of the church's continual involvement and outreach to the local community was the founding of what today is Connections for the Homeless. It started as a prayer vigil. People would come and sleep in a couple of cots down in our basement, and today that has expanded into a full-service, independent social service agency, which has several programs to provide services to people who are struggling to get off the streets and into their own homes.
Service is very important at Lake Street Church, and that is manifested through the youth group as well.
They went to St. Bernard's Parish in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina and helped rebuild houses down there for the families that went and for the experience leading up to that. It has just been an amazing part of their history now.
I went with them to St. Louis one year, and even on days off school occasionally we'll have service projects.
What it signals to me is this enduring, long-term commitment to not being isolationist and recognizing that we're part of this larger web of trying to hold transformative conversation and make transformative impact on people in need.
I really have grown up in the church, and it's been really wonderful for me.
The adults don't ignore me. They talk to me and I get to talk to them, and I have a lot of good friends here.
You see that you're not alone in the parenting struggle.
We had a good group of parents, and that group of parents bonded, so we all kind of raised our kids together. The younger kids under kindergarten have paid staff that are with them, and that provides a wonderful respite for parents on a weekly basis. In the kindergarten room, we are so blessed to have Mrs. Childress.
There's a party called pumpkin carving. How many of you have been to a pumpkin carving?
I'm going today.
Lake Street has supported our family with various extra activities. We get to know each other as parents, we get to know each other as kids, and then that continues in the regular service and in the fellowship time. It builds that community.
What I love about being a volunteer in the Sunday school program is that I'm learning just as much as the kids.
We get really talkative in my class, and I love that.
Kids are learning that the world has many different religions, many different viewpoints, and that it's okay to ask questions.
Debating different social issues or political issues, or just hanging out with friends. It's been a wonderful place to grow up.
On your profession of faith, I now baptize you in the name of God, and you live, move, have our being.
It was I want to do that.
It's about having the students discover how they feel about religion.
You get to discover what you want your own spiritual path to be. You get to discuss that with other people.
Each of the children in the confirmation class comes up with their own individual belief statement.
The minister reads that to the student, and the student says yes, and then gets dunked 3 times.
And watching each one of them go through this rebirthing process, I guess one of the most spiritual times at church.
The way that I've seen Lake Street work is really different than a lot of other congregations. It's really up to us as a congregation to sort through who we are and what we're about, and the minister is there to support us on our journey.
We, the congregation, are in charge of ourselves, and we pay for this church ourselves, and so what we have is a reflection of our values and what we want.
Part of what's made the experience at Lake Street Church really meaningful is participating on the board and as a member of a number of committees. The members of the church really contribute an amazing amount in their time and thoughts and talents in helping to run the church in partnership with the staff.
I've worked on many committees and learned so much about other people and their gifts and their concerns.
I will see people practically yell at each other, and then later on in the meeting they'll be smiling and laughing with sharing a joke with one another, and it has taught me that it's okay to disagree.
We are not afraid here to share our vulnerabilities.
Deacons at Lake Street Church are second hand to the ministers in pastoral care. We are also in charge of a social aspect for the church. The most satisfying part about being a deacon is to know that I have the ability to affect a greater love in the community.
There's a sentence in our church covenant that means a lot to me. It's something about we bear each other's sorrows, share each other's joys.
I have been through some tough times personally, and when maybe other people in my life weren't available to me, this church stepped up in unbelievable ways to support me.
We can only hope to get a glimmer now and then, and I think that the one thing we do know through our Christian tradition, but also through almost all other traditions, is that what God calls us to do is to love one another.
We really do practice a radical hospitality, welcoming all people for who they are and the gifts they bring to this congregation.
The reason that I think Lake Street Church is so important to the region is that Lake Street Church has really been a model for transformative leadership.
We are looking into the future of what a congregation needs to be to reach out in an urban, suburban area where we have a wide mix of people coming from different spiritual traditions and have that make sense of our lives in the here and now.
It's a church that has been on a journey and is still journeying. You just get that vibe when you're here. That sense of being on a journey, to me, is the thing that's most precious and the thing that people in this world really need.